This must be the bastion.
A large military was never the Enclave's priority. They did not aspire to conquest. Instead, they focused on defense. Their core interest was protecting not only their civilians, but their cutting-edge innovations.
End of the lifeline, Bryn.
Soldiers could see leagues from vigilant falls, but patrollers would easily spot incoming attacks.
Far jump, even for you.
Too bad I don't have wings.
Feathers wouldn't suit your face. Lane, any idea what that pillar is?
I did find a reference to the Trial of Fires, a rite of passage for new Bastion Swarm before they could cross over to their new life.
Crossing over? Trial of Fires? Unsubtle. Bryn, what happens if you make it hot? Nice work.
Pretty involved. Still, you'll have no trouble when it's your turn to head back out in the field.
Yeah. Be sure to scour the bastion.
Happy to weave that into your mantle.
Looks like a war room.
Looks like the recorded minutes of the meetings that took place here. The last one is dated roughly 26 years ago.
What was it about?
A lot of information was torn off. Casualties got too high due to something they blotted over with ink. And the military commander should execute a defensive measure called asylum. What could that be?
Scour the rest of the book and find out.
Should be a drop somewhere around here. Another notice. Drops must be completed and all runners to safety before the next predicted flood.
This confirms they have a way to predict the floods, and some way to stay safe.
Let's stay focused on our runner. For now. That's all of them.
3 supply drops. Not a lot of answers.
I believe I can help with that.
Some sort of access beneath the keep.
A military workshop for enchanters.
The Enclave never used magic to expand its borders, but had to defend itself.
Against nations that thought otherwise.
Exactly.
Research notes from about 40 years ago, probably from an enchanter that worked here. Observing arc degradation. Looks like there was an expected and normal amount of degradation observed in the arcs following the surge. But once the arcs start killing civilians, it says, this is a systemic failure. What could that mean?
It means the arcs weren't sent to attack us as a means of defense.
They've lost control over them.
A final note scrawled on the cover page. The Archons will be no use in Asylum's execution.
The keep housed the Enclave's war room. Matters of high security were discussed inside. This must be where the military stored supplies and weapons before the surge.
tunnel. Judging from the size, it could have been a route for arkons.
Enclave soldiers would have slept here during training. Private chambers, perhaps belonging to the Bastion's commander.
A letter to the commander from Khan Stanild. He signed his title beneath. The I. Times have necessitated an information blackout. The cause of the casualties must be purged from even the Bastion's most secure records. Furthermore, military personnel are to be separated from civilians, unless facilitating the evacuation from Denevron. If word of the problem's true severity spreads across the populace, panic will be uncontrollable. It is imperative that Asylum succeeds.
Paints a stark picture.
All these documents you're finding will be illuminating. I might be able to piece this together soon. But whatever Asylum is, it sounds like a large-scale military endeavor. We should find more evidence of it than just a few papers.
I need to keep scouting Bastion then. Found a key swatch. There's a note with it. It says, "Commander, it's ready. Use the harness to execute Asylum."
Another key swatch. Wonder if it will lead us to whatever the harness is.
Only one way to find out.
With the documents you found in the Bastion already, wherever that key swatch leads must be a crucial piece of the puzzle.
I'll use it when I'm ready then. Where am I? Underground.
That barrier almost looks like the veil.
It must be the one Lucia wrote. Out in her notes.
And the panel looks like our scribe. Anyone know what it is?
No idea.
Similar design to a scry, but it looks like it's a permanent installation. Like it interfaces with the room. Could this be the harness?
Must be. It seems like Asylum involves sealing away whatever's beyond this barrier.
With this discovery and everything else you found, I should be able to piece together what Asylum actually was.
Expected abnormal amount of degradation in the aftermath of the surge.
Looking over the notes from the Bastion.
Dated almost 40 years ago, contemporaneous with the surge. The enchanter who created the notes was quite junior. Most people who had actually designed arcs had died in the surge, it seems.
The best we have is a novice's musings?
The observations appear accurate, and the enchanter was careful not to draw any ill-founded conclusions. But good methodology cannot replace experience. It makes sense now that the Enclave lost control of their own constructs.
If we could help the Hearthsiders get on their feet, do you think they could regain control of the Arcs?
Anyone who knew anything about the Ark's core design is long dead. A particularly innovative enchanter might have some luck with minor malfunctions, but the Arks aren't simply shut down or stumbling blindly in fields they once farmed. They've become violent, presumably even against their creators, and that won't be solved by something as simple as reapplying their grease.
There's no hope of regaining control.
With enough dedication, time, and research, anything is possible, but it won't be easy. Don't stay your blade just yet.
The Arc we followed through the Veil wasn't hostile. Any new ideas on what makes it different?
One possibility is that, since we know the Ark was being smuggled out of the Enclave, its deactivation might have insulated it from the surge. Another option, according to her notes, Lucia tinkered with its governing schema. That may also have had an impact. We do know our little friend is quite resilient to magic in general. That certainly could have contributed.
The letters were untouched, but the Eye blotted out a lot of information from other documents I collected in the Bastion. Do you think the Enclave's leader was trying to hide the Arc hostility from his own people?
I'm not sure how you could hide the fact that constructs taller than a building have gone on a rampage. Still, in times of crisis, paranoid governments have tried to bury all manner of scandals. And the Enclave certainly seems paranoid.
I guess there's still a lot of Arcs smashing in my future.
For the time being, at least. Unfortunate.
Yeah. If we can't use them to farm, they make great scrap.
Relegating the Enclave's premier innovation to scavenged parts isn't a victory we should be celebrating.
It's something.
And if the R is with the numbers of false increment that just indicates spaces... Ah!
Got it?
Yes. I'll translate all that we have and we can discuss it with Casmin.
Good stuff, Lane. We need all the information we can get.
And valuable insight into post-surge society that developed here.
I know we need to discuss the barrier and its potential ties to the flood. But want to give me a rundown of the research first?
Of course. Years after the surge, there was an inexplicable spike in casualties.
You don't think it's due to the Arks going hostile?
Well, that may be part of it, but we can't be certain due to the information blackout. All we know is that it nearly wiped the Hearthsiders out. What seems to have saved them was Asylum's execution. A defensive measure that involved sealing the underground behind a magical barrier.
Almost like the Veil.
Exactly like the Veil.
So the Enclave didn't just hide information from the rest of the Mater, but their own people as well.
Judging from the secrecy and a few of the letters you found, I would guess that high-level officials were paranoid. Clearly, not everyone was in favor of this measure, and some might have wished to thwart it.
People like Lucia.
And a dissenting group known as the Verdant Minds that she had ties to. Though it's entirely unclear what those ties were.
You said the casualties spiked long after the surge. Can you elaborate on what might have caused this?
This is truly the thousand-fairer question. With the information blackout, I can't find a concrete link to the cause across hundreds of pages. Ark hostility could certainly be a factor. Clearly, numerous Weavers were killed by their own defences. The recorded minutes from other meetings in the War Room illustrate a long period of geological instability following the surge as well. Aftershocks and earthquakes and... Well, not to mention the outskirts grew more dangerous each year as the creatures were allowed to breed unculled. But these threats seemed to plateau in the early years after the surge. There is no mention of the spike that resurfaced and prompted Asylum.
That's so strange.
It is.
Khan Stanild gave the orders to execute Asylum. Do we know anything else about him?
Judging from the series of letters between him and the commander, it would seem that, at the time, he was recently elected. And judging from the frequency with which he followed up on the commander's progress with Asylum, this defensive measure was a key pillar in his political platform. He seemed to grow increasingly concerned with his popularity among civilians in the most recent letters.
Ugh, isn't that kind of slimy?
Leveraging a security crisis to consolidate political influence? Yes, it's incredibly slimy and effective.
And the commander? Do we know what happened to him?
It would appear that Asylum was executed successfully, so perhaps he is still alive. But until we find the Hearthsiders, we can't know for sure.
It's got to be where the Hearthsiders went, right? Remember, the letter mentioned they were evacuated from the city.
To an undisclosed location. We have no real confirmation that they are down there.
But it would make sense, wouldn't it? After all, asylum can mean shelter or safekeeping.
It can also mean prison. I know everyone wants an easy answer to where they went, but something just doesn't add up. You would think there would be at least one document linking Asylum to the evacuation of the city, and there simply isn't.
So, back to the barrier. Think it's the one Lucia was trying to take down?
Yes, the very same. She was right, too. It's causing the miasma floods. The raw magic that off-gasses from the veil is what causes the tangles to cluster at its base. In speaking with Dom, we theorised that this second barrier could potentially be doing the same thing. Except in a more pressurised environment, like, say, within a barrier of kinetic magic.
We don't get small pockets of raw magic like tangles. We get floods of it.
Precisely.
So we need to remove Asylum's barrier to stop the flood. Lucia's thimble could undo the barrier, but we don't have the parts to build it yet.
Those parts just became essential.
Well, Codebreakers, how are we feeling?
Satisfied. We have enjoyed reasonable success.
That's Lane's way of saying they crushed it.
Notes being passed between a brother and sister, quite candid, and dissatisfied. In particular with their boss, who they refer to as the Grumple.
The Grumple?
A Renland myth, where ill-behaved children would be gathered up in a sack and tossed into the river to drown at the end of the year.
Bye.
The Grumple, yes. Renland fables prominently feature drowning as a punishment for children. The myth has fallen out of favour in recent decades, though. Ren society is less forgiving of flights of fancy.
The Grumple. Really?
Really.
Moving swiftly on. What else did the drop say?
Remember that ominous note about tracking individually in specific teams?
From the context provided by our hauler, we now know a significant number of Hearthsiders survived the surge.
But only just surviving. They relied on the runner-hauler teams. But supplies consistently went missing. There is also a sense that the Enclave was getting increasingly dangerous for the Scouts.
The floods, of course.
With supplies running thin, the supply teams were falling under suspicion of stealing.
This pair responded with the entirely reasonable, if exhausting, plan of overperforming.
I've done that job, Lane. Sometimes you just need to prove the ass in charge wrong.
Indeed. They collected a cache of rare items they were planning to turn in when they felt its size and value would erase any suspicion.
Do we know if they turned it in?
No, but we know what it was. Or is.
And that's where I come in.
everything all right?
Yeah. There's just so much. Oh, and a letter. Encoded like the others.
Can't wait to work it out.
So, the letter. I'm prepared for bad news.
How did you know?
They were collecting supplies for other survivors. We know someone is out there. The supplies never made it to them. That, and the tear stains.
Is that what that was? Yes, well, there's a lot to cover. We have the cache itself and our scrounging siblings.
We should at least give you the high-level details on both. Where do you want to start?
Talk to me about the supplies.
They did astonishing work. If I weren't sure they're both gone, I'd hire them.
Indeed, a robust collection, including several enchanted objects we barely recognize.
They had a keen eye for things that could decay and took care to preserve them.
You two sound giddy.
If there's one thing Lane and I are passionate about, it's preservation of rare objects.
That's enough about the cache.
Sure.
What did the final note say?
Yes, right. It was a farewell. One sibling disappeared. The runner.
I thought the runner of the pair was the one we found.
So did we. But this last message was a farewell to his sister. Apparently the Grumpole...
Really?
I know. But apparently their boss had been ordered to stop wasting resources on the search.
And so our hauler left this farewell, hoping his sister might find it on the off chance she was alive.
He was going to remove all their other messages so their plan wouldn't be found out.
We postulate he was on his way to do that, when
When the flood caught him.
These people, however many are left, they've really been through it.
they might really need our help.
They're still organized and have a command structure, but it sounds dysfunctional.
Is there anything we could do, do you think?
Sadly, no. But their story will live on in our chronicle.
Did we confirm they weren't actually stealing from the Enclave?
The letter seems genuine. I think their plan was to bring in a big haul.
It says a lot about the Hearthsiders that our siblings thought this would clear any suspicion.
How so?
The cloud of suspicion tells us they were in dire times, tightening the screws on their own people.
But bring in a big load and we trust you. Doesn't that sound a little like a bribe?
So you think our runners were dirty?
No. I think the system's dirty, and they're just stuck working through it.
I'm not going to say the name, but do we have any sense of who was giving their orders?
The Enclave's leader was called the Eye, a first of firsts, after a fashion. Elected from the masters of each craft, the High Smith, High Enchanter, and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any details about their direct superior. I will spare you the name.
Let's move on to something else.
Of course.
So, where do we go from here?
Good news. We compared notes with Dam. We found parts that will let us complete Lucia's thimble, from those schematics you decoded.
It has been a busy time. Solo will handle the assembly, of course.
I suppose the only other thing to say is good job, Bryn.
Indeed. We have made progress in unraveling the shape of what the post-Surge society looks like in the Enclave. Further, these documents are invaluable to the historical record.
And maybe you put a couple souls to rest. Not to be sentimental.
All right. Let's go over everything we know so far.
We know that, for a time after the Surge, civilians continued to live in Denevron until they were forced to evacuate the city. We're still not sure the cause.
Wherever the Hearthsiders went, they're still actively sending scouting groups to scavenge for supplies. From the uniform, the creeper who was watching Bryn sleep belongs to one of these groups.
We also know that a defensive procedure codenamed Asylum sealed access to the Enclave underground. This was done using a barrier almost exactly like the Veil.
Lucia, an ex-high enchantress, opposed Asylum and began working on ways to sabotage it.
Her research forecasted that the barrier would cause the Enclave to flood with miasma. The very same flood that seems to have killed Lucia before she was able to finish her thimble.
But we have her design. It could disrupt Asylum's barrier.
So Lucia's thimble is the key to our survival.
It's less a key and more like a magical battering ram.
Whatever works.
What is it, Lane?
It's just, I've pored over all the documents we've compiled, and a concrete link between the evacuation plan and the underground is nowhere to be found. I can't shake the feeling we're missing something.
The Enclave destroyed a lot of information from their documents. Could that be why you can't find a link between Asylum and the evacuation?
I considered that. The Enclave may have hidden their location from Lucia.
Being a weaver isn't about being certain all the time. It's about taking calculated risks to carve a path forward. And regardless of the Hearthsider's location, disrupting the barrier is the only option to stop the flood.
You're right. I just hope that if we did miss something, it doesn't come back to bite us.
Even if it does, we will handle it.
That settles it. Bryn, it's time to use the thimble.
Zola.
The Half-Siders are scavenging their own city. Things must be dire.
I'm worried about them after that particular discovery.
You've a kind heart, Bryn. Though I'll stick to worrying about us, if you don't mind.
Perfect pair.
Not as protective, but great against the elements.
Our supply runners might be why there are so many crates gathered around the city.
Why do they reappear, though?
Dom and I have a theory. The arcs might still be partially functioning.
So, when they're not trying to kill me, they tidy up the place?
Like I said, a theory. But that was a big part of what they were built to do.
Thank you for your help with that, Bryn. You've a deft hand for flame magic. You can wear Sev's apprentice hat for one day. Also, Lucia knew what she was doing. This thimble was clearly designed to pair seamlessly with Enclave constructions.
Must be her experience as a high enchantress at work.
Based on Lucia's notes and what we discovered at the Bastion, this was custom designed to disrupt Asylum's barrier.
If it can stop the flood, we need to use it soon.
Agreed. We don't know how much time we have left.
Lane, could I have my ink pot back? You borrowed it.
That's an intimidating silhouette.
Shame to lose such prodigious runners. They were really very good.
The Hearthsiders have had it harder than any of us expected.
Indeed. We shan't let their efforts go to waste. Lucia's thimble is within our reach thanks to them.
verdant gardens. It was a must-see for visiting caravans.
Weavers and foreign dignitaries alike. The gardens were a pleasant backdrop to the trade negotiations that took place in Upper Denevra.
Frost magic.
You know, there's one silver lining to the sad tale of our deceased runners.
What's that?
We know the Hearthsiders still have some advanced production capabilities. The materials they were gathering don't have much use for basic survival. Therefore, weapons, armor, and enchantments.
Any concerns about us claiming them?
None. They've been there long enough. Scavenger etiquette applies. These kinds of materials are too rare to let go to waste.
fast, magic!
Perfect pair. Sharper than you think. Sharper than you think. proud of this one. Take them out from a distance, and they'll never know you were there. The tricky part's the balance. Classic design here. Kept it light for agility. Nice to work on something a little lighter every once in a while. form and function. It's going to look great.